The late afternoon sun cut long shadows across the parade ground at Naval Air Station North Island. Rows of white folding chairs gleamed, stark against the perfectly manicured lawn. Hundreds of Navy personnel, crisp in dress whites and blues, filled the ceremonial area. Medals caught the light. Insignia glinted. It was the annual honors recognition, a gathering to celebrate valor, service, and sacrifice. On the elevated stage, Admiral James Douglas stood at the podium. His silver hair and face, weathered by years at sea and behind desks, reflected decades of distinguished service. Behind him, high-ranking officials and decorated veterans sat in a silent row, each a testament to naval achievement. A cool breeze, carrying the faint scent of the Pacific, ruffled the ceremonial flags. "The strength of our Navy," Douglas proclaimed, his voice deep, resonating with practiced authority across the assembly, "is not measured solely by our ships, our weapons, or our technology. Our true power lies in the character of our sailors, their courage, their commitment, their willingness to stand between America and any threat." In one of the rear rows, standing, was Chief Petty Officer Harper Lane. She was 32. She carried herself with a quiet dignity, a deliberate plainness. Her dark brown hair was cut short, practical. Her standard dress uniform bore none of the distinguished service ribbons she had earned. Those lay locked in a small wooden box under her bed, reminders of a past she worked hard to forget. Harper had chosen the back, standing. Old habits died hard. She preferred to see her surroundings, to have clear access to the exits. 3 years in civilian-adjacent life, working as a contractor in communications, had not dulled the instincts honed through years of specialized training. She shouldn't have come. The invitation had arrived 2 weeks ago. All base personnel were welcome. As a civilian contractor, she was not required to attend. But something had drawn her. Curiosity, perhaps. Or a subconscious pull to the world she had left behind after Blackhawk Peak. The memories of that operation were sharp, like glass shards, despite her efforts to dull them. The freezing mountain air, the crack of gunfire echoing through the ravines. The weight of responsibility when she realized she was the only one left. The hospital afterward, doctors fighting to save her shattered shoulder. The distinctive surgical scar it left, hidden now beneath her uniform. Admiral Douglas continued his address. He spoke of accomplishments and challenges. Harper listened with half an ear. Her gaze drifted between the speaker and the faces in the crowd. She recognized senior officers, men she had once served under. None of them had been directly involved in the classified operation that had ended her active duty career. That was by design. After her medical discharge, Harper had specifically requested North Island, a base where her specialized background would remain unknown, a place to rebuild a life free from the shadow of Blackhawk Peak and the unit that no longer officially existed. "The call to service demands sacrifice," Douglas said, his voice pulling Harper's attention back. "Sometimes that sacrifice is visible. Time away from loved ones, physical hardships, the wounds of battle. But often the greatest sacrifices remain unseen, carried silently by those who serve in the shadows, asking for no recognition, seeking no glory." Harper shifted her weight. The Admiral's words struck too close. Her right hand moved, unconsciously, to her left shoulder. Fingers traced the scar beneath her uniform. The surgery had restored most function, but the damage had been enough to end her career in special operations. Not that such a career officially existed. Women weren't allowed in the Navy SEALs, not officially. The reality was more complex. Layers of classification, carefully worded denials. The program that recruited her and a handful of other women with exceptional capabilities operated in the shadowlands of military special operations. Their missions were not conventional, their achievements never publicly acknowledged. They were ghosts. They went where traditional operators could not. They accomplished objectives beyond standard SEAL training. Then came Blackhawk Peak, the operation that cost 2 teammates their lives, left Harper with a rebuilt shoulder. Classified medical records listed it as a training accident. The crowd's applause jolted Harper. Admiral Douglas had finished recognizing a young lieutenant for leadership during a humanitarian mission. As the applause faded, Douglas shuffled his notes. He prepared to introduce the next honoree. Harper decided she had done enough. The ceremony would last another hour. She had reports to finish before her shift ended. She began to ease her way toward the edge of the crowd, moving with the practiced invisibility that had once been essential to her survival. She was almost clear when Douglas's voice faltered. "And now, I'd like to recognize Lieutenant Commander Ryan for his exceptional—" The sudden silence drew Harper's attention to the stage. Douglas had stopped, his gaze fixed on someone in the crowd. Harper followed his line of sight. He was looking directly at her. A cold shock ran through her. The entire assembly seemed frozen. Douglas stood motionless at the podium. His expression shifted. Confusion, disbelief. Then, without explanation, he stepped away from the microphone. He descended from the stage, moving with purpose through the parting crowd. Harper remained rooted. Her training warred with instinct. Running would draw attention, the exact thing she had spent 3 years avoiding. But staying meant confrontation, with a senior officer who clearly recognized her despite her efforts to remain anonymous. As Douglas approached, she saw the intensity in his eyes, the certainty of recognition. What she couldn't understand was why. She had never served directly under Douglas, never met him officially. Her unit's command structure deliberately bypassed conventional chains. There should be no way for him to know who she really was. Unless... The realization hit her. Douglas stopped before her. Close enough. She saw the emotion behind his professional facade. He wasn't seeing Chief Petty Officer Harper Lane, civilian contractor. He was seeing the operative she had once been. Left side, surgical scar, from a titanium plate, 7 screws, he said quietly, his voice pitched for her ears alone. Harper felt the blood drain from her face. The specifics of her injury were classified at the highest levels. Only one way Douglas could know those details. "Sir, I think you must be confusing me with—" "Blackhawk Peak," he interrupted. The name silenced her. Eastern Ridge Approach, November 2019. Now Harper understood. Admiral Douglas, then Captain Douglas, had been there. Not on the ground with her team, but in the operations center, coordinating the extraction that saved 47 trapped Marines and naval personnel. He had been the voice on the emergency communication when everything went wrong, but he shouldn't have known what she looked like. The women in her unit operated under strict anonymity, their identities compartmentalized, personnel files restricted to a handful of senior officials with clearance, unless he had seen her during the evacuation, perhaps in the field hospital, the scar fresh then, the damage still being assessed. Around them, the crowd had grown silent, watching the unexpected interaction. Curious. On stage, officers exchanged confused glances, unsure whether to continue the ceremony or wait for the Admiral's return. Harper maintained composure. Internal alarm bells rang at maximum volume. "Admiral, perhaps we could discuss this privately after the ceremony," she suggested. Douglas wasn't listening. His eyes had taken on a distant quality, as if seeing not the parade ground at North Island, but the snow-covered mountains of a battlefield thousands of miles away. Without warning, he did the unthinkable. Admiral James Douglas, decorated naval officer, current base commander, lowered himself to one knee before Harper. His head bowed, a gesture of profound respect. It sent shockwaves through the assembled crowd. "Staff Sergeant," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You were the one I saw on Blackhawk Peak." Complete silence fell over the parade ground. Hundreds of confused faces stared at the unprecedented scene. An admiral kneeling before a seemingly unremarkable chief petty officer. Officers and enlisted personnel exchanged bewildered glances. Harper stood frozen. Years of careful anonymity crumbled. With 3 sentences and 1 gesture, Douglas had shattered the careful fiction. Whatever came next, there would be questions she couldn't answer. Attention she had specifically joined the Navy to avoid. "Only doing my duty, sir," she finally responded, her voice barely audible. As Douglas rose to his feet, his eyes now filled with undisguised reverence, Harper knew that simple statement was inadequate. What had happened at Blackhawk Peak went far beyond duty. It had been something else entirely. The kind of mission that created legends, even if those legends remained classified and unspoken. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Harper realized her anonymity was over. The scar on her shoulder, the physical reminder of Blackhawk Peak she had carried in private for 3 years. It now marked her publicly. Douglas straightened, regaining some composure. Emotion still played across his features. "We should speak privately," he said, echoing her earlier suggestion. Harper nodded, aware of the hundreds of eyes fixed upon them. Whatever came next would need careful management to protect not just her identity, but the classified program she had been part of, a program whose very existence remained officially denied by the same Navy that created it. They moved away from the crowd. Harper heard the Master Chief of Ceremonies attempting to redirect attention to the stage, to continue with the awards. But she knew the damage was done. By tomorrow, rumors would circulate throughout the base about the mysterious chief petty officer who had brought Admiral Douglas to his knees. The scar on her shoulder seemed to burn beneath her uniform, a physical manifestation of memories she had tried to leave behind. Some things couldn't remain buried forever. Blackhawk Peak had found her. Despite all her efforts to disappear, now she would have to face the consequences. Admiral Douglas led Harper to his private office in the administration building. He dismissed his aide with a curt nod that brooked no argument. As the door closed, the facade of military formality slipped, revealing the raw emotion beneath. 3 years, he said, gesturing for her to take a seat. 3 years I've been looking for you. Harper remained standing. "With respect, sir, you shouldn't have been looking at all. The program was classified, compartmentalized, denied at the highest levels." Douglas completed her sentence with a wave of his hand. "I'm well aware of the official position. I'm also aware that without you and your team, 47 men under my command would have died on that mountain." Memories surfaced unbidden. The biting cold of the ridge, the weight of her weapon, the knowledge that she and her teammates were the only hope for the trapped Marines. It was a team effort, sir. A team of 3, Douglas counted, 2 of whom didn't make it off the mountain. You were the last one standing, Staff Sergeant. You single-handedly held that extraction point for 6 hours with a shattered shoulder and internal bleeding. The use of her actual rank, Staff Sergeant, not Chief Petty Officer, confirmed Harper's suspicion. Douglas had accessed her real file, not the sanitized cover identity she'd been using at North Island. "How did you find me?" she asked, changing the subject from the operation itself. Douglas moved to his desk. unlocked a drawer with a key from a chain around his neck. I didn't. Not intentionally. I was transferred to North Island 8 months ago. Your name appeared on a routine personnel report. Harper Lane, Chief Petty Officer, Communications Division. Nothing to draw attention. He removed a file folder stamped with multiple security classifications. Placed it on the desk. But I never forget a name. Especially not one I wrote into a classified Medal of Honor recommendation. Harper's eyes widened. You what? You heard me. Douglas tapped the folder. Denied, of course. Acknowledging your actions would mean acknowledging the program itself. Can't very well give the nation's highest military honor to someone who officially doesn't exist. Serving in a unit that officially doesn't exist. For actions that officially didn't happen. He opened the folder, revealed a photograph Harper had never seen. Herself, unconscious, on a medical transport. Left shoulder heavily bandaged, face pale from blood loss. The image must have been taken immediately after her evacuation from Blackhawk Peak. When I saw your name on the personnel roster, I didn't make the connection immediately. Then I remembered the after-action briefing, the medical reports. Douglas's voice grew quieter, and that distinctive surgical scar, 7 titanium screws and a custom plate. The surgeon said he'd never seen anything like it, rebuilding a shoulder that had taken that kind of damage. Harper unconsciously touched her left shoulder, the phantom pain a constant reminder of that day. The scar shouldn't have been visible today. I was careful. The uniform shirt shifted when you turned to leave, just for a moment, but enough to see the upper edge. Douglas closed the folder. I recognized it immediately, because I've seen the surgical diagrams. I was briefed on every aspect of your medical condition after the operation, given your importance to national security. The realization dawned on Harper. Her carefully constructed anonymity compromised by a shifting uniform shirt. Years of caution undone in a single careless moment. What happens now, sir? Douglas studied her for a long moment. That depends on you, Staff Sergeant. Your cover here is compromised, at least to some degree. After my reaction at the ceremony, people will ask questions. Questions I can't answer, Harper noted grimly. The program remains classified. Yes? Douglas nodded. But there are options. Transfer to another facility, a promotion within your cover identity to explain the special treatment, or... He let the word hang. Or? Harper prompted, though she suspected she knew what was coming. Or reinstatement, a return to active status in your actual role. There it was, the offer she had both expected and dreaded. A return to the shadows, to the life she had left behind after Blackhawk Peak. The program was disbanded after Blackhawk Peak, Harper said carefully. The casualty rate was deemed unacceptable. Douglas's expression remained unreadable. Officially, yes. Just as officially you never existed in that capacity. Reality is more fluid. Harper felt a cold certainty settling in her stomach. They reactivated the program. Not exactly. They restructured it. Improved operational parameters. Enhanced support systems. Douglas leaned forward. And they've been looking for their most successful operative since the doctors cleared you for duty, only to discover you disappeared into the conventional Navy structure with a new identity. I didn't disappear, Harper corrected. I followed protocol, medical discharge, identity reassignment, integration into a standard role, everything by the book. The same book that said women couldn't serve in special operations. Douglas raised an eyebrow. We both know that particular book has unofficial appendices. Harper couldn't argue. Her entire career had existed in those unofficial appendices. The classified programs that operated beyond conventional military boundaries, leveraging capabilities that transcended traditional gender restrictions. "Why now?" she asked. "Why are you telling me this now?" Douglas hesitated, then decided on directness. "Because we need you back. The situations that required your unique capabilities didn't disappear just because you did, Staff Sergeant." "I'm not that person anymore," Harper said quietly. "Blackhawk Peak changed things." "Changed you, you mean?" Douglas's voice softened with unexpected compassion. "I understand that better than you might think. I've carried my own ghost from that operation. 47 men came home because of you. But I still see the faces of the two who didn't. Your teammates." The mention of her fallen comrades struck Harper like a physical blow. Lieutenant Maria Maya Reynolds and Lieutenant Susan Sue Miller, the other two members of the three-person team deployed to Blackhawk Peak. Their names weren't on any official memorial. Their sacrifices acknowledged only in the most classified reports. "I can't," Harper began. Douglas raised a hand. "I'm not asking for an answer today, or even tomorrow." He reached into the folder again, extracted a small metal object, placed it on the desk between them. "But I am asking you to consider what you left behind, and what you might still have to offer." Harper stared at the object. A specialized identification coin, unmarked except for a serial number, and a stylized ghost insignia, the symbol of her former unit. The ultra-classified team, unofficially known as the Ghosts of Blackhawk. "How did you get that?" she whispered. "The coins were never supposed to leave the secure facilities. Your commanding officer gave it to me after the Peak operation. He said, if I ever found you, I should return it." Douglas pushed the coin toward her. "He believed you'd be back eventually. He said, operators like you don't really retire. They just take extended leaves of absence." Harper made no move to take the coin. "Commander Blackwood said that." "He did, right before he authorized the reinstatement of the program under new parameters." Douglas let that information settle. "He's been waiting for you to resurface. Apparently, he never believed you'd really walk away permanently." The revelation that Blackwood was still in charge, still running a program that officially didn't exist. It shifted Harper's understanding. If anyone understood Blackhawk Peak, what it had cost her, physically and psychologically, it was Blackwood. What would reinstatement look like, she asked. The question itself a concession. Initial consultation only, Douglas clarified. No commitment beyond hearing what they're offering. Secure transport to a classified facility. Briefing on the program's new structure. Assessment of your current capabilities. After that, the choice would be yours. Harper finally reached for the identification coin, its weight familiar in her palm. For years, she had carried it, a reminder of her oath, her commitment to a mission larger than herself. Surrendering it had been part of her separation process, a symbolic relinquishing of that identity. "And if I say no," she added, "then we discuss alternative arrangements for your current position. As I said, your cover here is at least partially compromised. People saw what happened today. They'll have questions." Harper closed her fingers around the coin, feeling its edges press into her skin. "I need time to think." "Of course," Douglas nodded. "You have 72 hours. After that, I'll need to file a formal incident report about today's recognition. Once that happens, certain protocols will automatically engage." The unspoken implication was clear. Once official channels acknowledged what had happened at the ceremony, Harper's carefully constructed identity would begin to unravel. The very systems designed to protect operatives like her would ironically be the ones to expose her. I understand. She pocketed the coin. Thank you for your discretion, Admiral. Douglas stood, signaling the end of their conversation. I meant what I said out there, Staff Sergeant. What you did at Blackhawk Peak, it went beyond duty, beyond courage. I've recommended hundreds of decorations in my career, but never with the conviction I felt writing yours. Harper moved toward the door, uncomfortable with the admiration in his voice. I was just doing my job, sir. No, Douglas said firmly, echoing their previous conversation. It was far more than that. And I suspect it's why you're going back. Because somewhere inside, you know, there are operations that require exactly what you bring to the table. Capabilities beyond the ordinary. Courage beyond the expected. Harper offered no response. Privately, she acknowledged its partial truth. Her decision to return wasn't about heroism. It was about unfinished business. About understanding what really happened at Blackhawk Peak. What cost Maya and Sue their lives. And why Commander Blackwood had been so certain she would eventually return. As she left the Admiral's office, Harper felt the weight of the ghost identification coin in her pocket. A physical symbol of the identity she had tried to leave behind. Now, through circumstances both unexpected and perhaps inevitable, she was preparing to reclaim it. 12 hours until transport. 12 hours until Chief Petty Officer Harper Lane disappeared. Staff Sergeant Harper Lane re-emerged from the shadows. 12 hours to prepare for whatever waited. Answers about Blackhawk Peak. Clarity about the restructured program. And perhaps most importantly, resolution for the ghosts that had followed her from that blood-soaked mountainside 3 years ago. This time she wouldn't be running from the past, but directly toward it, with all the risk and revelation that choice entailed. The military transport landed with practiced precision at a remote airstrip. Pine Forest ringed it. Harper, now in unmarked tactical utilities, descended the ramp into the cool evening air. A single duffel, her authorized possessions, hung over her shoulder. A lone figure waited beside a matte black SUV. Tall, angular, close-cropped silver hair caught the last rays of sunset. Commander James Blackwood hadn't changed much in 3 years, still projecting the quiet intensity that made him legendary in special operations. Staff Sergeant Lane, he greeted her, voice carrying across the tarmac with deceptive casualness. Welcome back to the land of the living. Harper approached, her stride measured, the pace of someone reacquainting themselves with a complex relationship. Sir, I wasn't expecting a personal reception. Exceptional circumstances warrant exceptional protocols. Blackwood opened the SUV's passenger door. We have a 40-minute drive to the facility, plenty of time to begin addressing the questions I know you're carrying. The interior was configured for secure communications. Sound dampening, countermeasure systems, visible behind the standard upholstery. They pulled away from the airstrip. Harper noted the privacy screen between the driver and passenger compartments. Already engaged, Admiral Douglas conveyed your condition for reinstatement. Blackwood began without preamble. Full access to the Blackhawk Peak files has been authorized. They're waiting at the facility. Harper studied her former commander's profile. Just like that, those files were compartmentalized at the highest levels when I left. Circumstances change, priorities evolve. Blackwood kept his eyes on the winding forest road. The program has undergone significant restructuring since your departure, Staff Sergeant. New operational parameters, enhanced support systems, improved extraction protocols. Because of what happened at Blackhawk Peak, Harper surmised. Because of what was discovered at Blackhawk Peak, Blackwood corrected. The distinction subtle but significant. Your team's primary objective was intelligence gathering on suspected weapons development. What you found altered strategic assessments at the highest levels. Harper felt a familiar tension building at the base of her skull. We were compromised before we could transmit comprehensive intelligence. The mission was classified as a failure in my final briefing. Blackwood's expression remained unreadable in the fading light. That was the official assessment. Yes. What wasn't shared with you was that the emergency transponder in your equipment continued transmitting fragmented data during the extraction operation, partial intelligence, but sufficient to confirm the presence of advanced weapons research in the region. The revelation sent a cold wave through Harper's chest. You had actionable intelligence from our mission and never told us. Maya and Sue died believing we'd failed completely. Operational security required compartmentalization, Blackwood replied, his tone professional despite the emotional weight of her accusation. You were evacuated with life-threatening injuries. Your teammates were KIA. The intelligence gathered was deemed classified beyond your required access at that time. Beyond my required access. Harper repeated the bureaucratic phrase, inadequate to address the magnitude of what had been withheld. They were my team, Commander. Blackwood finally turned to meet her gaze directly. And you'll have full access to everything now, Staff Sergeant. Every report, every analysis, every decision made in the aftermath of Blackhawk Peak, including details that remain classified at levels that would make Admiral Douglas's clearance look routine. The promise of complete disclosure was unexpected. Welcome. Harper nodded her acceptance, focusing on the immediate objective. What happens after I review the files? What exactly does reinstatement entail? That depends on your assessment. After reviewing the complete operation records, Blackwood answered carefully. The program has evolved significantly. Your role within it would be determined by both your current capabilities and your willingness to adapt to new operational parameters. The vague response suggested complexities Blackwood wasn't prepared to discuss until she'd reviewed the files. Harper shifted to more immediate concerns. Admiral Douglas mentioned my cover at North Island was completely compromised. How extensive was the breach? Limited to the specific individuals who recognized you, plus Lieutenant Commander Ryan's unauthorized investigations. Blackwood's expression hardened slightly at the mention of Ryan. He's been contained, reassigned to a monitoring post in Alaska, with appropriately restricted access privileges. The swift handling of the security breach confirmed the program's continued high-level backing. Harper felt a flicker of professional appreciation for the efficiency. Personal questions lingered. The Admiral also mentioned, "You've been looking for me since my medical discharge. Why wait until now to make contact?" Blackwood's response was measured, as if selecting his words with care. "You needed time, Staff Sergeant. Time to process Blackhawk Peak, to heal physically and psychologically. We monitored your recovery from a distance, waiting for indicators that you were ready to return. And Douglas recognizing me at the ceremony was just coincidence?" Skepticism in Harper's voice. Admiral Douglas's transfer to North Island was coincidental. Yes, his recognition of you was unexpected, but ultimately fortuitous. Blackwood paused before adding, "Though I admit I had anticipated some form of contact would become necessary within the next 6 months, given certain evolving operational requirements." Before Harper could press for clarification, the SUV turned onto an unmarked road, approaching what appeared to be a standard government research facility. Perimeter fencing, security checkpoints, surveillance systems, visible, but not ostentatious, designed to suggest routine government operations, rather than a highly classified special operations training center. "Welcome to Echo Facility," Blackwood announced as they passed through multiple security checkpoints. Established 18 months ago as the primary training and operational headquarters for the restructured program, the vehicle pulled into an underground parking structure, stopped near a secured elevator. Harper noted the subtle but comprehensive security measures: biometric scanners, encrypted access panels, carefully positioned surveillance systems, no blind spots. "Your quarters have been prepared," Blackwood informed her as they entered the elevator. "The Blackhawk Peak files are accessible through the secure terminal there. Take whatever time you need for review. We'll reconvene at 0800 tomorrow to discuss your assessment and potential reinstatement parameters." The elevator descended deeper than Harper expected, suggesting significant underground infrastructure. When the doors opened, they revealed a sterile corridor with numbered doors. A secure residential section. "Room 307, Blackwood indicated, leading her to a door. "Biometric access has already been coded to your specifications. The terminal inside, configured with your previous security protocols." Harper raised an eyebrow. "You maintained my security configurations even after my departure?" "As I said, Staff Sergeant, your return was anticipated." Blackwood's expression softened slightly. A rare glimpse of the mentor beneath the commander's exterior. "Review the files, get some rest. Tomorrow will bring significant decisions." He turned, walked back toward the elevator, leaving Harper alone before her quarters. The biometric scanner recognized her. The door slid open, revealed a space that balanced military functionality and unexpected comfort. Larger than standard military quarters. Separate sleeping area. Small kitchenette. Workspace dominated by an advanced, secure terminal. Furnishing simple, but higher quality than typical government issue, suggesting long-term occupancy requirements. Harper set down her duffel, moved directly to the terminal, her desire for answers overriding all other considerations. The system activated. Biometric scanners confirmed her identity, presented a menu of classified files, the complete operational record of the Blackhawk Peak mission and its aftermath. For hours, Harper immersed herself. Details withheld during her recovery, subsequent discharge, the intelligence her team gathered before compromise, analysis of fragmented data transmitted by her emergency equipment, strategic reassessments triggered by confirmation of advanced weapons development. Most significantly, she reviewed classified medical reports on her teammates, the details of how Maya and Sue died, information deemed irrelevant during her hospitalization. The clinical language did little to soften the impact. Learning exactly what happened to the women who had been closer than sisters. Maya died instantly from a high-caliber round, providing covering fire for Harper's advance to secure the extraction zone. Sue sustained multiple gunshot wounds, remained operational long enough to reach Harper's position before succumbing. Both posthumously recommended for classified valor decorations. Forever unacknowledged. The most surprising revelations came in the after-action analysis of Harper's own performance. Medical experts had been unable to explain her combat effectiveness. Shattered shoulder, significant internal bleeding, duration and intensity of defensive actions deemed physiologically improbable, leading to specialized neurological and physiological assessments during recovery. Never informed. These assessments apparently contributed to the program's restructuring. New selection criteria, focusing on candidates demonstrating similar neurological resilience. Harper's performance at Blackhawk Peak hadn't just saved 47 lives. It had become the template for the next generation of the Ghost program's operational capabilities. Dawn approached. Harper finally reached the most recent files, Detailed analyses of the weapons technology her team had investigated. The implications sobering. Advanced neurological interface systems, designed to enhance human performance beyond conventional limits. Technology blurring the line between human capability and machine assistance. Nearing field deployment. The pieces fell into place. The reason for restructuring. Emphasis on operators with Harper's neurological profile. Blackwood's certainty of her return. Whatever this technology represented, countering it required capabilities few operators possessed. Capabilities her Blackhawk Peak performance had demonstrated under extreme conditions. At Joe 7:30, Harper powered down the terminal, mind processing the flood of information. A shower and fresh utilities helped clear her thoughts. By 0755, heading to the conference room, questions crystallized. Focused inquiry, less emotional response. Commander Blackwood waited. Two individuals Harper didn't recognize. A woman in a white medical coat. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency insignia. A man in civilian attire, military bearing despite no uniform. Staff Sergeant Lane, Blackwood greeted her, gesturing to a chair. I trust the files provided the clarity you were seeking. They did, sir, Harper acknowledged, taking the seat, though they also raised additional questions. Blackwood nodded to his companions. Allow me to introduce Dr. Eleanor Reeves, our program's medical director, and Mr. Thomas Caldwell, technical operations specialist. Both have appropriate clearance. Harper nodded acknowledgement, noting the careful formality. Whatever came next would be official, part of the reinstatement process. I've reviewed the complete Blackhawk Peak files, she began, addressing Blackwood, including analyses of the weapons technology our team investigated, advanced neurological interface systems with military applications. Correct. Dr. Reeves confirmed, speaking for the first time, systems designed to enhance human performance through direct neural stimulation and feedback loops. Technology that could potentially create soldiers with capabilities far beyond conventional limits. Technology similar to what enabled your extraordinary performance during the extraction operation, Caldwell added, his assessment direct, unembellished. Harper's focus sharpened. Excuse me. Blackwood raised a hand, silencing his colleagues. Let me clarify, Staff Sergeant. The neurological resilience you demonstrated at Blackhawk Peak was entirely natural, a product of your inherent capabilities and specialized training. What made it significant was that it matched or exceeded performance parameters the enemy technology is designed to artificially produce. In essence, Dr. Reeves continued, you demonstrated naturally what they're attempting to create synthetically. Your neurological assessment during recovery showed unique patterns of neural integration under extreme stress, patterns we've since identified in a small percentage of other potential operators. The implications were flattering. Unsettling. Harper maintained professional composure. So, the restructured program focuses on identifying and training operators with similar neurological profiles to counter this emerging technology. Precisely, Blackwood confirmed. Conventional special operations forces would be at a significant disadvantage against enhanced opponents. We need operators whose baseline capabilities already approach or match what the enemy technology can produce. And you believe I'm one of those operators? Harper concluded, pieces aligning. That's why you were so certain I'd return. You need what I can do. What you can do is rare, Staff Sergeant, Dr. Reeves said, her tone professional. The neurological resilience you demonstrated at Blackhawk Peak, maintaining combat effectiveness despite catastrophic injury, represents capacity we've identified in less than 0.1% of all special operations candidates. Harper absorbed this, connecting it to her file review. Current intelligence suggests this technology is nearing field deployment. That's the evolving operational requirement Commander Blackwood mentioned. Blackwood nodded, his expression grave. Our most recent intelligence confirms accelerated development timelines. We anticipate initial field deployment within 6 to 8 months, potential proliferation to multiple hostile non-state actors within 18 months. Strategic implications are significant, Caldwell added. Conventional forces, severely disadvantaged against even small units of neurologically enhanced operators. Traditional special operations teams would face similar challenges, which is where the Ghost program comes in. Harper concluded, specifically selected and trained operators with the natural neurological architecture to match or exceed artificially enhanced opponents. Exactly. Blackwood leaned forward. The program has been restructured around this specific operational requirement. New selection criteria, specialized training protocols, enhanced support systems, all designed to identify and develop operators with your particular capabilities. Harper considered the comprehensive picture and my potential role in this restructured program. That depends on your decision regarding reinstatement, Blackwood replied carefully. Full active duty would involve both operational deployment and training responsibilities for new candidates. Your experience at Blackhawk Peak provides unique insights, invaluable for preparing the next generation of operators. The offer was professionally flattering, carried obvious risks. Harper had paid a significant physical price. Returning to active status meant accepting similar or greater risks. I need to understand the current team structure, she said. Original program operated with 3-person teams. Does that remain standard? It does, Blackwood confirmed, though with enhanced support elements and improved extraction protocols. The lessons from Blackhawk Peak have been thoroughly incorporated into operational planning. Harper nodded. And my potential teammates, assuming full reinstatement, I'd need to know they meet the same neurological and training standards. They do. Blackwood exchanged glances with Dr. Reeves. In fact, they've been selected specifically for compatibility with your operational style and capabilities, based on extensive analysis of your previous mission parameters. The implication was clear. So certain of her return, they had already identified compatible teammates. I'll need to meet them before making a final decision, Harper stated firmly. Regardless of selection parameters and neurological profiles, team dynamics can't be predicted solely through data analysis. Agreed, Blackwood responded, seeming pleased. That can be arranged immediately. They're currently in the training facility, completing routine exercises. The swift accommodation suggested anticipation. Harper wondered how thoroughly Blackwood had gamed out this conversation. Before we proceed, Harper said, her tone leaving no room for equivocation, I need to be absolutely clear about one final aspect of reinstatement. Complete operational transparency moving forward. No withholding of mission intelligence or outcome assessments, regardless of classification levels. I won't operate in the dark again. Commander Blackwood held her gaze, measuring the resolve. Agreed, Staff Sergeant. Full operational transparency within your team and direct communication channels to command elements. The restructured program emphasizes informed operators rather than compartmentalized assets. The concession represented a significant shift. Acknowledged. Blackhawk Peak's lessons. Harper's personal conditions. In that case, she said, rising, I'd like to meet my potential teammates. As they moved toward the door, Dr. Reeves offered one final observation. Staff Sergeant, I've studied your neurological assessments extensively. What you did at Blackhawk Peak wasn't just extraordinary from a tactical perspective. It represents human performance capabilities we're only beginning to understand. Whatever you decide, your contribution to our understanding of human potential under extreme conditions has already been invaluable. Harper acknowledged the comment with a nod, uncomfortable as always, with recognition for actions she viewed as necessary. Blackhawk Peak represented both success and failure. Lives saved, teammates lost, mission compromised, critical intelligence secured. Walking toward the training areas, Harper felt the ghost identification coin in her pocket, a physical reminder of the identity she had tried to leave, now on the threshold of reclaiming. Whatever awaited in the training facility, whatever decision she made, the ghosts of Blackhawk Peak would finally have resolution. Not just remembrance. Perhaps that, more than any strategic consideration, was why she had returned. The underground training facility was vast, cavernous, divided into specialized zones, advanced simulation areas, live fire ranges, environmental chambers. Neurological monitoring stations lined the perimeter of a central tactical training floor. Blackwood led Harper toward an observation platform, overlooking a complex urban warfare simulation. Below, two figures moved. Fluid coordination, clearing spaces, engaging targets with precision, natural ability and specialized instruction. Lieutenant Laura Kennedy and Ensign Dana Peterson, Blackwood identified, selected from over 5,000 candidates based on neurological profiling and operational capability assessments. Harper studied their movements, recognizing ghost program techniques, noting recent adaptations. They're good, excellent coordination, minimal communication, intuitive tactical adjustments. They've been training together for 16 months, Dr. Reeves noted. Monitoring displays showed real-time physiological and neurological data. Their neural synchronization metrics exceed previous program standards by approximately 22%. The scientific assessment was impressive. Harper's attention focused on the practical application, the way Kennedy and Peterson anticipated each other, covered approaches without verbal coordination, identified and neutralized threats with complementary tactics. "How much have they been told about me?" Harper asked, recognizing the importance of first impressions. "They know your operational designation and role in the Blackhawk Peak extraction," Blackwood replied. "Performance parameters, not personal details. We found that allows for more authentic team integration." Harper nodded. Team formation in the original program had been similar. Professional capabilities established before personal connections. Below, the operators completed their objectives. Simulation powered down. Performance metrics appeared. Exceptional. "They're waiting to meet you in the tactical briefing room," Blackwood informed her, gesturing toward a doorway. "I suggest you speak with them privately first, operator to operators, without command presence influencing the interaction." The recommendation surprised Harper. Suggested greater operational autonomy. "Agreed. I'll need at least 30 minutes for preliminary assessment." "Take whatever time you need," Blackwood replied. Exchanging glances with Dr. Reeves and